Hello everyone. This presentation is about human factors in AI. The course material is provided by Duke and it is provided by Coursera. In this presentation, we have to design and consider the ethical and privacy implication of a new AI-based product. So in this exercise, we have to design the user experience for a product and focus on the key AI-specific considerations for input and output, transparency, communicating uncertainty, and the feedback loops. Secondly, we have to evaluate the privacy and ethical implications of the product, describing the approach to ensure privacy of the user data and any applicable privacy laws that is applicable, identifying possible sources of bias in the model and strategies we can apply to proactively mitigate them. The system, what I am proposing is the AI-powered patient assistant system. In this introduction, it's a project overview. It's AI-powered patient assistant system, which will provide 24/7 medical assistance to the customer. Key objective, which we're going to cover in the presentation, is providing an AI-driven initial health assessment, then recommendation for the over-the-counter medicine or off-office scheduler, chatbot for general FAQs, insurance advisor for claim guidance, ensure ethical AI practice and privacy safeguards, and ultimately provide a competitive pricing for the over-the-counter medicine with the hours of operations to the customer. Designing the AI-driven user experience. While we are designing the AI-driven user experience, we have to consider to keep a couple of things in mind: the user input and feedback loops, transparency in the AI decisions, and communicating uncertainty very clearly to the user. So first point, the user input and feedback loops. We have to make sure the user inputs are properly catered for in the model, and also we consider the feedback loops. So first and foremost is we are collecting the data, what customer is giving the feedback for the diagnostics results and the recommendation coming out from the AI model. Then we have to collect the customer feedback about the recommended pricing based on the actual pricing and what the model has recommended. Third thing is periodically you have to review the diagnostics based on the symptoms provided by the model and have it reviewed by the actual doctors. And then the price adjustments. As things changes, the price of the medicine or any other products changes, you have to make sure the model is considering all those factors and putting all the new pricing into the model, so that it's whenever it's recommending the pricing, and it does the pricing adjustments. Second thing is transparency in the AI decisions. We have to make sure we really very clearly communicate the decisions generated by the AI to the user, because it's at the end of the day, it is just a mathematical model which is recommending something to the user based on the user input. So you have to make sure we very clearly communicate how AI came to the decision, how or why did it come to that decision. You have to provide clear relevance of the output considering the historical data. So we have to make sure the recommendation is basically is based on the historical data, and we show that information to the customer so that customer feels that this is based on let's say 10,000 recommendations, or based on certain thousands of records what model has already been trained on, and it is recommending the output based on that data. And then customer feedback, that was previously have used the system, and whether the customer has liked it, or customer has actually said the AI model has actually generated the output which is useful and it is accurate. That will be very, very useful for the new customers to be confident about the output of the model. Last thing is communicating uncertainty. So the model, as it is giving the output to the user, it also has to provide the confidence score, that how confident it is based on the symptoms customer has provided, and what is the confidence level for it for the recommended diagnosis and the pricing and the corresponding other things what user is asking for. Next one is we have to think about certain design aspects when we are designing an AI system output and the decisions. So first thing is we need to provide a dashboard where customer can interact with different things, and we have to decide on the things what user would most probably would be like to see when they log into the system in terms of dashboard recommendations, data, and all that thing. And then maybe on the report side where customer can see based on the um, previous data or previous report, previous data, it can create some reports without the PII. At least it can show how many recommendations were given, how many recommendations were good, and any other reports which will be relevant for the customer to consume. And user interaction and the customization. So user interaction is very, very important because the information what we are providing or user is providing in terms of chatbot input and how that data gets read by the AI model and recommendations it generates. And any other customization customer would like to see, for example, the medicine, uh, the medical stores or medical providers based on the locality and customer preference. All of those things should be catered for or should be customizable for the user when they're interacting with the system. Privacy and the data protection strategies are very important for AI-based product. Further foremost, we need to make sure the data collection and the compliance piece, where we have to secure the data while we collect the data, and we have to make sure the data is retained properly, meaning the data at rest and data in transit should be encrypted and properly secured. The controls around the storage and accessibility of the data is very important so that we make sure that only the allowed users are actually able to access the data and do read, write, and transform the data as needed. Then we have to provide the opt-in, opt-out option for the metadata to be used to retain the model, making sure that customer is fully aware of this strategy that AI model will be reusing the data for retraining purpose so that the model gets better in future. And transparency in the data handling, we have to very clearly communicate the uses of the provided information to be used for training. For future data, definitely have to make sure the PII, the restrictions around the PII is catered for, and that is very, very important. Otherwise, it could be a problem on the regulatory side. And then you have to make sure we communicate very clearly to the customer the uses of the metadata, what customer has provided in terms of race, gender, location, etc., so that the model can learn from it and give a better prediction next time. Also, on the privacy law side, as we're dealing with the medical records and medical data, we have to make sure that HIPAA laws in US is also considered, and we have to make sure whichever system, whoever is providing the data, only that person or the medical providers are able to use the data only, not anybody else can use that data for their own purpose. Ethical AI and bias mitigation strategies. So any AI model, it's prone to the potential biases. Now, bias refers to the model generating synthetic output that are discriminatory, unfair, and stereotypical. And it can arise from customer location, age, race, gender. Model output generate biased output if the customer from the specific demographic use the tool more often, or even the model prediction can be biased based on the individual's usage of the locality or any specific medical service which they are trying to use. So we have to make sure that the three goals of ethical AI is considered during the model generation and the system integration. fairness, accountability, and transparency. So we have to make sure that consider the gender bias while training the model, that we have to be fair. Accountability is providing provision for the feedback loop. When customer is providing the feedback, we have to make sure we account for it. And then transparency is providing proper guidance and FAQs to the user while using the model. Mitigation strategies are there are a number of mitigation strategies for bias and all that. So while we are training the AI model, we can use the drivers data sources, which can actually reduce the biases which we're gonna introduce. And then human in the loop validation is another good way to remove the or kind of reduce the bias. And then AI control feedbacks. So we can program something in the AI model itself to self-correct based on the feedback it is receiving from the customer. Feedback loop for continuous learning. It is very, very important that the model itself, it learns itself based on the adaptive AI learning. First option could be the periodic AI model retraining. So where we'll be periodically retraining the AI model based on the newer set of data, so that the model keeps it current, or the model gets the current learning. Second one is the algorithm to self-adjust based on the historical false positive. We have to make sure that the data, the model gets the self-adjustment for the false positive. We can use dynamic thresholding, reinforced learning, adaptive smoothing, or feature engineering where the system can learn from the feedback. Human-centric AI approach, where the user and the admin user can override the system and making sure that it is not hallucinating too much, and it can adjust the parameters which would basically control the output from the AI model. Second one is user-generated training data. We can generate more training data, which can be utilized to retrain the model so that it does not go or does not provide a totally outlying output. Thank you very much.